Okay. Welcome. Here, let me turn down my mic just a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't. Definitely want to turn down my headphones. Okay. Is that good? Is that good? All right, welcome. Welcome. We might have a couple people here right now. How are you doing today? Hi, Kat. I see you too. Yes. Okay. Yeah, let's just go for it. Cool. All right. Good timing on the song. Ah, perfect fade. How's it going? Welcome to today's stream, or this week's stream, I guess. Trying out that new Wednesday time slot, seeing if that works for us. And, well, as you can see, eventually the main topic of the stream, we'll be talking about Disney in sort of an abstract, lofty way, because it's only recently that I've really started to notice all of the marketing around Disney's 100th anniversary. But I've noticed it now, and the thing with Disney in general is, if you're expecting a hot take after that pause, sorry. The thing about Disney is everybody has thoughts. Everybody has opinions about Disney. Everybody has experiences with Disney, which I'll be talking about a little bit as well. But it's just kind of a no-brainer, and in a way, I kind of I see the negative side of that too. We've talked about Disney so many other times here on the channel, whether it was in live streams or in specific videos, and it's just in a way, it feels like any mention of Disney is immediately taking away from other animated work or other animators you could be talking about. But that's just the fact of the matter. Like, world animation, not just Western animation, is dominated, or at least occupied heavily by Disney's presence and their continued work on multiple fronts, as well as their efforts to, in more recent years, to buy up all kinds of very valuable and influential properties and studios. So we will get to all of that business, and of course, as always, I'm sort of most interested to hear some thoughts from other people. That's sort of one of the interactive components of the whole live streaming deal. But yeah, as usual, starting out nice and easy. I'm very tired. I've been getting into drinking energy drinks recently, which is a bad thing, sort of objectively. But it works. It works when there are like 3 different times throughout the day where I'm just like, oh, I could go to bed now. And maybe should, but I can't. So we're drinking energy drinks. We're hanging out. We'll chat about Disney, but we'll also chat about a whole bunch of other different stuff. And as is the case, usually I'm cruising through Cartoon Brew, my 18th favorite website on the internet. And this especially, by the way, this is an uncharacteristically wild thumbnail for Cartoon Brew, so I don't know. And it's not about like a controversy with John Lasseter. Well, I guess it is, but not that kind of controversy involving John Lasseter. Here he is. And yeah, apparently I'll have to dig into it. I just saw this before we started streaming. The headline kind of implies that they like broke a contract at Skydance, which John Lasseter has been heading up for a few years now, right? It implies that they like broke a contract with Apple. But oh, I don't like this. Don't like this pop-up thing. Okay. Run by the disgraced creative chief of Pixar and Disney. Amid is not pulling any punches on this one. Has ended its distribution deal with Apple after releasing just one feature, the poorly reviewed Luck, which I never watched, and its future output will now be released by Netflix. No official reason. Multi-year pact. Is a pact... Is the legal definition of pact the same as contract? Oh, they mutually agreed that their next feature was not a fit for Apple's expanding narrative slate. Spellbound, directed by Vicky Jensen Shrek. Now, I get... I get what that means. They're trying to associate this person with a project they've worked on in the past. But without knowing what Vicky's role was on Shrek, this kind of makes it seem like the journalist here wants to remind us that Vicky Jensen is somehow like Shrek in disguise. That's where my head went. Anyway, how are you doing? We're really hopping around today. How are you doing today? Have you been watching anything good? Have you given up energy drinks yet? It's a short article too. What have I been watching? Well, I stopped watching the One Piece anime, actually. Basically because I wasn't gonna catch up. I wasn't gonna catch up, even if I'm just binge watching One Piece while doing other things during the day. Well, for one thing, I'm missing out on stuff because I'm not paying very close attention. But beyond that, it still wasn't fast enough. I was on episode, what, maybe 250? A little bit later than that, and there was no way. There's no way I'm getting to 1,000. It's just not going to happen anytime soon. So I switched. I switched to the manga. And there's a whole discussion. I mean, there's a whole probably overblown and somewhat boring conversation to be had about some of the differences between the manga and the anime. I'm not enough of an expert to really comment on that, but you definitely do notice the differences. And that way, yeah, I could read maybe three and a half chapters in the time it would take to watch a single episode of the show. So, yeah. So I was doing that instead of watching the One Piece anime, although I do like the anime quite a bit. I don't think I've watched any brand new animated shows recently. I have a vague interest in the Futurama reboot, not because I think I'm going to like it, but for the opposite reason. We'll see about that. But I was also never a huge fan of Futurama in the first place, if we're being honest. It played an important role in my personal entertainment development or literacy or something. But other than that, wasn't quite my cup of tea. So hearing about this long drawn out reboot that they've been trying to put together for years, I was just like, no, it's okay. You can let it die. It would be okay if it dies. So that's been my general opinion there. I did see this pop up in maybe, I don't know, somewhere else. It might have been the newsletter from this very website, but I haven't looked into it. Long story short, we have the Adult Swim's first Spanish language series, which is called Women Wearing Shoulder Pads. Should the title not be in Spanish? How do you feel about that, viewer? Again, something just about the combination of the headline and the title itself. Their first Spanish language series, which is, here's the English name. Yes, very, very clearly stop motion, just based on our models here. Now, where is it being animated? Cinema Fantasma? Yes? Okay, just the fact that it's Adult Swim stop motion animation. I assumed it was going to be. Oh no. It wasn't Starburns that did the Shivering Truth, is it? I'm just saying that Adult Swim has a lot of experience with stop motion shows. So I kind of assumed it would be one of those studios that they've worked with before, or that they maybe own. But yeah, here we are. While we've all seen a million stop motion shows in Spanish featuring an all female cast centered on the plight of guinea pigs, Gonzalo's unique voice and the visually rich stop motion from Cinema Fantasma meant that we couldn't pass up on women wearing shoulder pads. That's pretty. Okay. Okay. All right. All right, Michael. Do we not have a clip even? Wow. Early days. Okay, yeah, I guess it was just announced. Anyway, there you have that. I'm interested in that. I mean, I like stop motion in general. And the idea seems very appropriately weird for Adult Swim, and I'm kind of half and half on a lot of their newer stuff, but we'll see how it goes. Let's see, what else was I trying to think of? I am interested in this. This is some more news I hadn't heard of quite yet. Very spicy. Pete Docter, one of the old folks, one of the old fellows there at Pixar, blames Disney Plus for early Elemental box office struggles. Okay, I need more info. Getting back to the kinds of stories that made Pixar a powerhouse in the first place. Well, is it Disney to blame or Disney Plus to blame? An Elemental with it just was one of the biggest flops in the studio's history, right? Temporarily, as we saw that play out ourselves, without putting all the blame on blah, blah, blah. Disney says that a streaming-focused release plan in the early days of Disney Plus has done long-term damage to the theatrical prospects of films released by the company. He argued that Disney, in the hopes of growing subscriber numbers, was too eager to send films directly to streaming. 3 consecutive Pixar films bypassed theaters and went straight to Disney Plus: Soul, Luca, and Turning Red. Yeah, okay. I mean, yes. Fair enough. That is true. However, when was Soul? Adblock Plus has been updated. Great. Think it'll work on YouTube now. Was that not 2020? Soul was 2020. Luca was early 2021, right? And Turning Red, if memory serves, was early 2022. Yes? So the only one there that I would actually say supports the point is Turning Red. I don't I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this too simply. Maybe I'm reducing this too much, but it would seem to me that the decisions to put those fairly high-profile Pixar releases direct to Disney Plus, I think those decisions were influenced, at least in part, at the time, by the whole pandemic situation. I don't know. Maybe that's not the case at all, but that really seemed to be the case at the time when it was happening. I don't know. I maybe he's in fact arguing that this is just an unfortunate side effect of those kind of necessary programming choices at the time. Maybe he would have preferred that, you know, they should have held off on all of those big movies until they could release them in the theater. There has been an overall shift in viewing habits as a result of the pandemic. There you go. But it's also specific to Disney Plus. We've told people, hey, all of this is going to be available to you on Disney Plus. I don't know. I mean, they seem to be shifting in the other direction now. I will ask you, hypothetical viewer, what... Step outside of yourself for a second. Imagine you're like a kid, very much a kid, 10, 12 years old. And in particular, you're really into Pixar. I think I was in a similar position around that time. If you knew, okay, it's going to release in theaters in early June, but it's going to be on Disney Plus by, late August, what choice would you actually make? Because for me, especially as a kid, so much of the decision to go to the theater at all was not based, definitely not based exclusively on whether or not I wanted to see something and whether I thought it looked cool. That was definitely a driving factor. But beyond that, I wasn't going to be going on my own. I was not going to be taking my taking my bicycle with the baseball card stuck in the spokes and swing by the soda fountain real quick on the way to the movie theater on some random Thursday afternoon. Like, it wasn't going to happen. And I don't know whether we're talking about the viewer habits, the changing viewer habits of kids as maybe the target demographic for a movie like this one, or whether we're talking about the parents here, is a huge factor, I think. And I don't think that we could definitively say, oh, Elemental didn't do really well in the theaters at first because kids didn't want to go. I don't know. And maybe it's the older folks who have shifted over and are just like, yeah, it's not really worth it. Also, it is still rather expensive to go to the movie theater in person, especially with multiple kids and things like that. It's not the easiest thing to do. It is not the most cost efficient thing to do. So anyway, yeah, just a couple of comments there, but the NYT piece argues that while proud of Elemental's success, Doctor would like to see Pixar return to telling more universal stories. This comes after a paragraph talking about how it's about like an immigrant experience. He wants to make more films about ideas that we all carried around as kids, such as toys, Toy Stories, thank you, Monsters, Monsters Inc., and superheroes. I always felt that Elemental would speak to a lot of people, and I'm so happy it has. But we have also taken another look at the projects we're working on now. What are the kinds of films we want to be making? I really think I want to double down on what allowed us to speak to audiences to begin with. Yeah, that's a weird angle to take, I think, specifically in referencing something like Elemental. And this is what came out after the initial release. It's like, oh, it's not like a rom-com thing so much, which is kind of what the trailers portrayed it to be. But no, it's heavily about an immigrant experience, feeling otherized, trying to hang on to that identity, but just being challenged. So, I don't know. That does seem like a hot take to me. That seems pretty bold to just say, oh, we don't want to. I don't necessarily want our movies to speak to very specific, human experiences, but rather more universal human experiences. I don't know. I think we could also potentially argue that ultimately a more specific story like this has relevance to a universal audience. That's probably getting too far into the weeds here for a stream. Anyway. Yeah, interesting. This is ultimately an article about a different article that I would probably have to pay to read in its entirety. And that New York Times article, I don't know. Typically, those kinds of profiles are PR moves. Like, it's something that's arranged with the public relations representatives of whoever the focus of the profile is, or at least based on my limited knowledge, that's how I understand a lot of those pieces to go. So if this is really how he wanted to portray himself, and I don't know, I just, especially after the fact that like Elemental did go on to be relatively successful, or very successful. Didn't it end up making like 800 million or something at the box office? I have to see now. Box office. No, not that much. Let's see. No, not that much at all, but still. Not awful. Reported budget of what, around 200 million? Worldwide gross of almost 500 million. Okay. So yeah, it's a Detective Pikachu kind of success overall. Nothing crazy. Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. That's what Pete Docter feels about the current state of Pixar, I guess. Um yeah. Also potentially relevant to our discussion later on. Disney CEO Bob Iger has said during an earnings call that the company is focused on reducing the cost per title of all its upcoming films. Okay, and this is the last thing I wanted to comment on here with this is where is it? Okay. We've also taken another look at the projects we're working on now. So to me, that implies they almost definitely have something else in full production at this point. Well, I would guarantee they have something else in full production. But they have other projects in pre-production. Still kind of the ideation phase, I guess, right? Imagine, I don't know. You certainly couldn't turn around with something that's in production, but something in the very early stages. What if Pete Docter just walks into the room and he's like, you know what? I just don't think it's universal enough. Like, it doesn't have those universal connections to childhood, I guess. So let's scrap it. Let's scrap it. We need another shot at this one. Sorry. That just seems kind of wild to me. I don't know. Um, and to be honest, I wasn't even really sure that Pete Docter was still really active at Pixar. I had kind of gotten the impression that he was not on his way out necessarily, but in such a sort of lofty executive role that he wasn't hands-on with a lot of the projects. But maybe that could be completely incorrect, especially based on what he's doing here and really saying this stuff in public. That's another interesting risk to take, I suppose. There's a Nimona art book if you're interested in that. We got there you go. Things, shorts. Paw Patrol is the 8th highest grossing animated feature of the year. Of the year? Or ever? Please tell me. Uh-huh. Right. Of the year. Okay. Whew. Hey now. Hearing it's the 8th highest grossing movie of the year, not all that surprising to me. Hearing that it's the 8th highest grossing movie of all time, or highest grossing animated movie of all time, yeah, that would be a bit of a shock. That would be a headline. Ugo, welcome back. Ugo says, I think it's more like the movies, like Ant-Man 3, where they spent too much money on the shows, on Disney, where they spent too much money on the episodes. So you're just saying, yeah, just based on the budget, they were expecting big things from Elemental, right? Just return on investment, I would suppose. And of course, as always, I know I say this every single time we talk about box office numbers in any way, is that especially for the major Hollywood studios, you have to factor in the marketing costs as well, and the marketing costs are massive. They are generally considered to be equivalent to the production costs for the movie. Variation, obviously, and there's no way to really tell because they don't studios don't typically report anything on marketing budgets, only on production budgets. So it definitely cost more than $200 million total. So yeah, I get it. A total gross of almost 500 million. No, it's not a smash hit. It's not a Mario, is it? It's not a Mario, which will set a studio on Easy Street for, I don't know, the next 50 years or so, something like that. Okay. Deep Sea, have not seen that. Mm-hmm. According to Deadline, Mighty movie success has significantly impacted the brand's engagement on the Nickelodeon network, Paramount Plus, and consumer products. This year, Paw Patrol is projected to generate over $1.5 billion in retail sales, and the first film is the most watched original / exclusive film on Paramount Plus. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think I need to really comment too much on Paw Patrol as a into entertainment product. I don't think I have any incredible insights for you there. But yeah. Did you actually see Elemental Ugo? Did you see that one? I mean, I know we've talked about it before, just generally here on the stream. Did you actually watch that one at some point? I mean, I should now that it's on Disney Plus. Like, to Pete's point, why not? If you have a login, you're good to go. Why not give it a shot? Was there ever a possible reality where Pixar in particular, being, you know, possibly the most prestigious sort of family animated filmmaking studio, which is what they put on their sign, do you think there's a reality in which Pixar, as they grew more prestigious and more well-loved and respected, that they would have started making really long movies? Because that's the case with Hollywood movies in general, right? For almost 100 years as well. Is if it's a big, important movie, it's supposed to be longer. The runtime has to be significantly longer. What if that somehow manifested in Pixar through the years? Like post Incredibles, certainly post Ratatouille. By that point, what if they just started making movies that were like 2.5 hours, 3 hours long? I ignore the practicalities, ignore the expense and the production timelines and everything. Like, that would just be fascinating. Because what I found myself about to say was, oh, and it looks like it's a relatively short runtime for Elemental, at like 1 hour and 40 minutes. And then I thought, well, yeah. Well, yes. Animated movies are generally quite short. Or just like, you know, the standard feature film animation length, right? Ugo says on Disney Plus. Watched it. Okay. I liked it. It was good. 8 out of 10. There you go. Like Ben-Hur. I mean, Ben-Hur, everything else. Yeah, so they're those historical or pseudo-historical epics. They're the Bible epics of old Hollywood, right? Cecil B. DeMille kind of stuff. On and on. Gone with the Wind, you know, right through to like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, especially Return of the King. Like they really felt like they were pushing sort of standard acceptable runtimes. Harry Potter followed suit, and not just genre stuff, obviously, but plenty of art house movies as well, contemporary and classic, have very long runtimes, even in their theatrical versions, and then they have longer versions as their director's cuts. Yeah, I think it's been a thing for a very long time, but it's never quite stretched to animation. There's probably some relatively obscure animated movie or art house animated movie that is very long, and it's just this massive project. But I have a feeling it's just incredibly rare. It's just time and expense. It's as a famous animator once said, it is the slowest possible way to make a movie. The very slow way of making anything. All right, cool. There you go. There's little bits and pieces of news. Okay, I got the headlines are getting me, I tell ya. Yeah, animated feature Oscar race. Now, of course, we all know we don't really care here too much about who wins the Oscars, but it's still fun to gawk. Why is Illumination constantly ignored? Is Jamie or Amid? It's Jamie. Well, Jamie, I can think of a couple reasons. This year, The Super Mario Brothers movie was a cultural phenomenon, built on one of the largest media franchises in history. It also overshadowed all the other animated features at the box office, and most of the live action ones too. Some may argue that Illumination's films aren't artistically ambitious enough to merit the Academy's attention, but we're talking about an Academy that gave nominations to The Boss Baby and Ferdinand. Oh no! I did not know the Duck movie is being directed by Benjamin Renner. Oh no. Also, why is only half of this title in italics? Sorry, there's a lot. I could dive right into this one. I don't think we should though. Yeah, no. There's also a difference between, you know, a nomination because they need more nominations and a win, right? If the Academy would like to nominate the Super Mario Brothers movie for an Oscar because it's an animated movie that performed well and came out within the last 12 months, I say go for it. I say sure. Let's have some of, you know, let's have some of the talk. Let's have countless podcasts. Like, well, should it win though? You know, I think hot take. I think it should win. Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, winning? No, no, it will not win. No, it won't. Cool. All right. Anything else here? Did Japan pick the wrong international feature submission? Well, in general, I mean, the idea that other countries outside the U.S. are only supposed to have what? Is it limited to one nomination per category? Crazy. It's very stupid to begin with, but there you have it. And very obviously, because this is just a Miyazaki movie at all, regardless of quality, it's got a great shot. It's almost a guaranteed win. Just because as soon as you look at that character, you're like, oh yeah, okay, it's Miyazaki. All right. Miyazaki. Oh, there's nature. Yeah. Okay. Win. We wanted to win because we want to hang out with him at the after party. You know. Ugo says, didn't Song of the Sea win one? Good question. I feel like that was slightly before I was even really paying attention to Cartoon Saloon, but let me see. See, Oscar? No, I don't think so. For animated feature or for a different award? It was a nominee, if that's what you meant. If you were talking about whether it was nominated, it was nominated in 2015. Yeah. And then it won a couple of, it won at the Annie Awards. Those are the big animation awards. Okay. The song won? Oh no, the song was nominated. Oh no, it didn't win. Sorry. I guess my reading comprehension is just dropping off a cliff. It was nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Annies as well, and it doesn't seem to have won that. Okay. But I don't know. If you have more to elaborate on there, Ugo, let me know. But I love Song of the Sea. I love Cartoon Saloon's work in general, and I think a lot of their stuff appeals very much to the voting members of the Academy. I think it's a very good fit for Oscar bait, essentially. Although the movies are definitely not. It's not just Oscar bait. They're genuinely great movies, but they have the artistic flair that makes voting members feel good about themselves. You're like, oh, I'm cultured. You know, we're not some dummies. Hollywood isn't full of dummies. We're very intelligent, sophisticated people who recognize that Ireland also makes movies sometimes. Sometimes. Yeah, there you go. The Mario slice looks a little bit low res, huh? So does Spider-Verse. I didn't even see Spider-Verse. How about that one, Ugo? Have you been keeping up better with this stuff than I have? Yeah, I guess I've been slacking. Haven't quite got there. Burning Landfill of Bad Movies, welcome. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? The only Disney employee I truly respect is an artist, as an artist, is UB Iwerks. Iwerks? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that name. Feel free to let me know a little bit more about that. And your reasoning for that. And immediately your comments getting me thinking about, like, I don't think I do know. No, I guess I do. Just through the years, I've run into a couple people who work at Disney, but not in animation department specifically. That would be fun. That's something where I would bother them and ask them a bunch of questions. So maybe it's for the best that I don't know any Disney animators. But yeah, at some point I knew someone who was in casting department for Disney animation, which is cool. I mean, my gosh, those people can make or break a career, you know. And I think I still know someone who works in like music licensing for Disney, not just for animation, but for a lot of their live action stuff too. So, but yeah, let me know some more about that. Ugo says, I did not like My Father's Dragon. It looked good, but I just did not like the kid for the most part. Okay, we talked about that one before, right? Again, you're gonna be surprised by this. I haven't seen it. I have a channel that's about animation, kind of, and I just haven't seen it. Oh yeah, it was one of the Netflix ones, right? 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, if you weren't into it, Ugo, I trust your taste. Netflix. I think I still have Netflix. I should watch this as well. Burning Landfill says he's pre-Mickey Mouse and might be said to be the true artist behind the early Disney successes, the 20s and 30s era. Oh, cool. Awesome. Hold on. Let me pull up some of his stuff then. And by the way, Landfill, that does remind me of some stuff. There's some things I wanted to talk about in terms of very early Disney, because obviously a component of this Disney anniversary is that it's like, oh, I guess they did start in 1923. Didn't know that before, but I know it now. Obviously, it gets us thinking about some of the, the early Mickey stuff, Steamboat Willie, and there's a lot to say about the Disney of this era, and specifically the early Mickey Mouse cartoons. But specifically, I wanted to mention that I've been reading this book. It's the same book I mentioned in the Nintendo video, where it's about the history of American animation through 20s through the 60s, more or less. And when they're talking about the author is talking about silent film era animation, he really focuses on Felix the Cat as opposed to Mickey Mouse. And his ultimate argument there, at least as I see it, is that Felix the Cat cartoons were far more interesting, like conceptually and artistically, and in how they were executed, as compared to the Mickey Mouse cartoons that Disney was cranking out. And he also mentioned a very interesting story, and how Mickey Mouse obviously made the transition to talkies, to sound shorts, very well. It worked great. People were happy to see Mickey Mouse with sound all of a sudden, and it was a good fit. And that propelled the brand as a whole to greater success. Felix the Cat, however, basically never got the chance to transition to talkies. And that was at least in part, or in large part, because apparently the guy who owned Felix the Cat, I don't think he was a lead animator on it, but he was the guy who owned the property, just spun out and had like a really bad end to his life. His wife died accidentally, so he ended up drinking a whole bunch, drinking way too much, and dying very soon afterwards. So Felix, as an entity, just died. It just died. And meanwhile, Mickey Mouse came up and sort of took the world by storm. And that was perhaps the basis of Disney's early success, at least in the talkies era. But I would love to learn some more about, okay, so it's Ube Ert, Iverks? I'm going to assume Oh, he's from Kansas City. I was gonna say, is he a German guy? Here, let me catch up. Ugo says, I would give it My Father's Dragon, I think. 7 out of 10. Maybe 6.8. Oh boy, we're getting into the fine grains there. But the kid is annoying. It's a kid's movie, and I do think a lot of kids will be able to compare themselves to the child more than me. I mean, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. If it doesn't work for us grown-ups, it's just too bad, but that does happen quite a bit, and we're fine with it. Burning Landfill says, Felix the Cat was big, but there was Mutt and Jeff, Bobby Bumps, Judge Rummy, original Tom and Jerry, and of course the Alice series. Yeah, and all the Fleischer stuff for sure. I tend to lean more towards a lot of the Fleischer stuff myself for 20s and I guess early 30s. I forget when they burnt out. But yeah, while we're on the topic of sort of less well-known but important Disney animators, we should definitely briefly talk about John Hubley. I was worried I got his name wrong, but we got him here. So he was a little bit later on, I believe. So yeah, he would have been, what, 40s into 50s for the most part. But the thing with John Hubley was he got ousted from Disney. I believe it was part of the whole McCarthy thing. That whole little blip in American history where it was, the witch hunting around the topic of potential communists infiltrating Hollywood and American life in general at the time. He got kicked out. I think he was seen as having sort of like generally leftist views, and it was too much. I think he personally clashed with Disney a couple times. This is all off of memory. So he just had to leave Hollywood, and apparently he couldn't get work at the other studios in Hollywood at the time. So he went off to New York, as far as I remember, and started doing some really interesting independent shorts, right? And they're pretty wild, some of them. The Hole is very interesting. He did a famous feature called Everybody Rides the Carousel, based on the child development principles or whatever. Anyway, but yeah, another really interesting guy who definitely got his start at Disney and was doing some great work at Disney, but didn't quite work out for the long run. He and the company went their separate ways. But anyway, but yeah, no, I love hearing about specific anime. Obviously, Tex Avery. Was Tex Avery even at Disney, or was he a Warner Brothers guy? I forget. Regardless, I love hearing about specific animators who never quite got the limelight themselves, even though they were doing really great work under the banner of whatever huge brand. But yeah, very cool. Very fun stuff. Also makes me think of the Simpsons episode. Maybe that's what it's based on, right? Where he's like, I'm the original inventor of Itchy and Scratchy, but the other guy stole my thing and got rich. Oh, have fun. Look at these little pencil tests. Oh, this is up for sale. Okay. Burning Landfill says The Hole is also a rather famous existential theater stage play. Not sure if the two are related. I don't know either. I mean, it's definitely a good name for something a little more abstract and kind of spooky. I think the Hubley short is great. It's I think what he did for a lot of the independent stuff was just record dialogue and by people just talking. I don't think they wrote out a bunch of scripts. So he would just get recordings of people having a conversation with each other and animate to that, which is something I still love. I love that in Aardman's Creature Comforts show, it was called, right? And some other one-off projects. I love that idea in general, just animating conversations. I guess I have done some of that myself in the past. And then deleted it. But you know what? Let's jump in. I want to experience the marketing of the Disney 100 website. We're going to do that together here. Ugo says Tex Avery was a furry. He worked for WB. Thank you. Yeah, I was seeing the wolf in my head, and I was like, that's not a Disney character. A wolf in a zoot suit is not a Disney character, even in the even in the 40s. So here we are. We made it. I have not dug into this, by the way. It's okay, Cat. We're not going anywhere. I have not really dug into it prior to the stream here. We're gonna experience this together. I do think the arc triggers a little too often. But I'm also guessing that people don't linger on the on this portion of the website for too long. So let's do it. Let's muse about the role of Disney in our lives, and then see what Disney thinks its role in our lives happens to be. So if you have any sort of like, oh, this would be a good one. If you remember the very first time you watched any kind of Disney movie, please tell me. If there's a story there, fire away. Go for it. That actually sounds fun, and I'll have to take a little bit of time to try to think of my first encounter with a Disney movie. That I remember anyway. And it probably was not in the theater. Ugo says, if you have time, you should see the short. They've done, they're about 2 minutes each. For which? For Tex Avery stuff? Burning Landfill says, I don't know what it is about the Disney Castle, but it always, for some reason, reminds me of the Mothers of Darkness Castle in Belgium. Well, what era is that? Because as far as I can tell, based on my limited knowledge of European castles, I have been told that the really fancy-looking ones like this, where we kind of think of Gothic architecture because of how many points, right? Gothic points to heaven quite a bit. A lot of those sort of signature Gothic castles were relatively late in terms of construction. I think a lot of those were in like the 1800s, as opposed to medieval times when you had lords trying to protect their fiefdoms and all that kind of stuff and have a place for storage. So very different. So it would have been later in general. This definitely seems like way over the top, super fancy, gaudy. It seems based on those, crazy elaborate castles you see in parts of Germany, Belgium, other areas in Western Europe. And this is something else. I'm glad it shows up in this one, but there is a short time. Obviously, we know how they've changed the logo through the years and the intro, logo before movies and stuff. For a while, it was a simplified version of this. Also, are these ducks? No, I think they're lanterns. It was a simplified version of this. It was later at night, which makes sense. Also, is this a sunset or a sunrise? That's symbolically important. But it was a narrower river that ran through the center of the castle, and it had little bushes or hedges right along the coastline. I don't think you called it the banks of the river. That's what they're called. I'm gonna try to find that actually. Because I actually like that one. I liked that one. It was a very specific. Here it is. It was a very specific kind of cozy feel. See, a little bit later, not quite as high res. Lovely lighting on the castle, but you have these little hedges here, and you're like, you know what? I would love to sit down by those little hedges. It by emphasizing the foreground just a little bit, I suddenly feel the sense of place more strongly. Oh, here's another version. Okay. But yeah, no, I like the hedges. It's kind of nice. I guess they would get in the way if you wanted to take a swim or something like that, but still. It's kind of nice. Yeah, here's one of the Toy Story ones. That's cute. Okay. Ugo says the Tex Avery stuff, I was not joking. He's a furry. Or maybe just a guy with too much time on his hands. I mean, I would kind of figure both. The only fun fact I have about Tex Avery, specifically as an animator, I don't know about his personal life. I don't know what his persona might have been. But I did hear that one of his eyes got messed up real bad. And I think he might have even had an eye patch in some photos. Um, but apparently he was just messing around at one of his jobs, and everybody was firing like rubber bands, gum bands, we call them, uh, and paper clips and stuff, and shooting stuff around. And I think he got hit in the eye with one of those. So his eye was all messed up. So basically, he lost vision in that eye. So his depth perception was gone. And as the legend goes, that affected his sense of perspective, just in his drawings, in his animation work. I find that fascinating. The idea of it, whether or not it's actually true, I have absolutely no idea. But I think that's neat. I don't know, and you can kind of see it. You can kind of see the connection just in terms of how he uses perspective, how his particular use of squash and stretch, for example. It's neat. I don't know, just something to think about. But I do love old Tex Avery shorts, although he tends to overshadow some other animators from the time. I think he's one of the names that people definitely know. You know. Burning Landfill says, I'm not sure exactly when the castle I'm speaking of was built. It's rather early, I think. Not 100% exactly when it was built. Okay, well, we can always look it up too, but I might look just on the other tab just to see and compare. Burning Landfill says, meanwhile, in Luxembourg. Uga says, also, I don't care if you people are furries. People can do whatever they want as long as no one's out. Yeah, don't worry. I wasn't worried about that, Ugo, but thank you for clarifying. We're okay with furries. Yeah, we're good. It's cool. We're very accepting. Okay, so here we are. We have this elegant little intro to the website, and then we have a whole bunch of stuff. We have a bunch of Microsoft Windows-looking panels. Was it Windows 8 that had all the panels? And look at all the things going on. There's a new statue at Hong Kong Disneyland. I was about to ask why it's always older Walt Disney in statue form. But it makes sense. That's when he was most famous for like being on camera and stuff, right? Old Disney is the more lovable Disney. Yes? Burning Level says, but where's the fun if no one's hurt at the end? Kidding, don't worry. Thank you. Thank you for keeping it light, Landfill. I appreciate that. We're accepting, but we can still make fun sometimes. I'm cool with that. Okay. I actually want to mess around with some of this stuff. Mostly in a joking fashion, but, you know. Oh, can I tell... Also, I have so many quick stories today. This is great. It's almost like I'm talking in front of a camera. And should be. That's not true. So Flounder... with the live-action... I almost forgot the name. With the live-action Little Mermaid production, which already came out, yes? Did that come out or not? Obviously, haven't seen it. But I was talking to someone. One of my jobs is like language tutoring for people who learned English as a second language, and we were talking about Disney, and it'll tie into some other points we'll be talking about if I remember them. Long story short, I asked, hey, has anybody seen the, or is anybody interested in that live-action version of Little Mermaid? And the one student right away just shot out and said, Flounder looks so stupid. Like, they just said, Flounder's just a fish. Like, it's not cute if it's just a fish. And they couldn't, wrap their head around why this decision was made. Original Flounder is very cute. Why would you ruin the character design? And I sympathize, obviously. But now that's all I can think of when I see Flounder's goofy face. Ugo says The Little Mermaid is also on Disney Plus. My God. That completely passed me by. Hold on, I just have to look at the Rotten Tomatoes real quick. Not that we put that much stock in review scores. But let's see. 94 audience, 67 critic. Wow. It ranks among the studio's most enjoyable reimaginings. Really? Wow. Okay, we can't spend time on that right now, but there it is. I had no idea that it even came out. Oh. Hugo says it's not very good, but it's not because it stars a black mermaid, obviously. Yep, right. Burning Landfill says all race and politics and all that aside, it's not really very good. The original is far, far better. I have no doubt. I think we're all probably on the same page there. Even just as fans of animation, like most live action remakes, if not all, I feel are kind of condescending to the original animated work. I don't think that gets considered very much. So I was born on September 27th, and this was a while ago now. What is this? This is some kind of membership where fans become insiders. This is for the, I guess, for the 100th anniversary. What is this? Join for free and unlock exclusive Disney 100 rewards. Okay, well, let's see what these rewards are, right? Hugo says Laurent Redis did a very good review of it. Okay, cool. I'll see if I can track that down later on. Well, maybe after I actually watch the movie. So what is this? Movie Insiders. Join us as we celebrate. Uh-huh. Okay. So what is this? Enter sweepstakes. Am I missing like an explanation of what this actually is? Landfill says fun side fact. Allegedly, the creators of the Little Mermaid movie were inspired by Georges Méliès's La Sirène short. Oh, okay. Oh, Méliès, of course. Sorry. Didn't connect the dots for a second. I know who that is. Cool. Makes sense to me as well. I don't know. I have a special affection for the old Méliès portrayals of like space people in Trip to the Moon, or underwater scenes. Like, yeah, I don't know. There's something fun about what was essentially a retro-futurist view of strange creatures and peoples. Okay, so what is this? Disney Movie Insider celebrates and rewards you just for being a fan of Disney, Marvel Studios, Star Wars, and Pixar movies. It's free to join and easy to start earning points. So, movie purchases. Huh? Okay. So it's some sort of loyalty program for seeing movies in theaters, but also at home for DVDs, not for streaming stuff. And also at Participate. Okay, yeah, I'm less thrilled. I thought this would be at least sort of entertaining. This reward is out of stock. The D100 pocket mirror. Sorry, you missed your chance on that one. It's no good. The keychains, however, which are double the price in points. You do get a slight discount if you want both of these fellas. The baseball cap I'm not crazy about. Landfill says, they say if you win 20 trillion points, you get to be a member of Club 33, Gio. This could bear out its own sort of myths. You know how there are all those weird urban legends about Disneyland and Disney World, and like, oh, the secret tunnels. This is how many people have died in Disney World, but they always cover it up, you know, stuff like that. I could see there being myths about like the top tier members of Disney movie insiders, you know? I just want to look at, is this all the rewards? I thought there would be like a whole big list. Coca-Cola used to have one of these kinds of programs. Nintendo technically still does, but it's not very good. Upload tickets. My gosh. Okay, so I would assume this is an attempt to get people to buy physical versions of movies and to see movies in the theaters. Although it's just, I don't know. They're advertising it with so many previous properties that like, so what is, how does that link up to theatrical releases? Are they gonna do some re-screenings of some of their old stuff? I don't know. Anyway, okay, we didn't get much mileage out of that, but there's Disney 100. I will not be signing up on camera here, but I'll keep it in mind for later. Ugo says, when Georges Méliès shows up in, also good job with the is it accent aigu and what's the other accent grave? Sorry, my French disappeared from my brain. When Georges Méliès shows up in Jack and the Cuckoo Clock Heart, I was very surprised. Then I found out it's a French movie, so well, they just had to pay. They just had to homage, right? Yeah, very French. A very French filmmaker for sure. There's a royal ball for D23 Gold members. Oh, it already happened. I guess they just wanted to tell us about it. But these are the people. These are the Gold members. The framing is a little bit unfortunate here. It kind of makes it look like tiny people are constructing some sort of oil rig atop her head, but we don't hold that against her. They look great. So did they have to bring their own outfits, you think? Or did they get like a, you know, your choice of costume once you showed up? But then they'd have to do fittings and stuff like that. Sorry, D23 in general is kind of wild to me, and not in a negative way, really. I'm just sort of fascinated by the extent of monetized fandom, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. So the actual, oh my gosh, the actual 100th anniversary was 2 days ago. Sorry, we skipped that one. An exhibition of royal themed treasures from the archives. I mean, that's fun. I like seeing their archive stuff in general. I think it's neat. But like everybody's got good costumes, right? Like they would not, I feel like they wouldn't even allow people to come wandering in if they weren't, well, then again, I just think they would prefer everybody to look almost exactly on model. And then some people talked, I guess. This is very strange. Oh my gosh. Ugo says I just copied it from the Wikipedia page. Either way, I really like having the accents there. Landfill says, "Wait a minute, that woman is not a woman. She's a TARDIS." I assume one of these, what we should have called lovely ladies, looks like a TARDIS. I have passed by the Disney campus a couple times, I guess, but I don't know, it's a neat looking building. I assume they do tours, right? Maybe exclusively for the D23 folks. But again, yeah, great costumes, good job. Everything, here's more merch. I always want to just have that ready to go. Okay, what else we got here? In the meantime, have I remembered what my first encounter with a Disney movie was? Probably not. It was almost definitely home video. I do not have early memories of seeing a Disney movie or even a Pixar movie in the theater. Not until I was a little bit older. We definitely saw Aladdin and Lion King pretty soon after their initial release, but on home video. Those were the VHS copies of those movies. And as they were for a lot of families, they got worn very thin. Like we watched those movies a whole lot. And Aladdin in particular was one that I really started to get more into as I got a little bit older. I was like, oh, comedy? There's like contemporary comedy in this movie? That's great. That means it's cool. But yeah, Lion King for sure. So those are definitely some of the earliest ones. I don't think we ever had a copy of Little Mermaid, so that's not one that's burrowed into my memory. But those are some of the biggest ones. And then definitely by the time Toy Story rolled around, I know they weren't technically owned by Disney at the time, but that was a huge deal. And that's something my my parents like to razz me about. Is that a nice way of saying that? My parents like to tell me the story that I was just obsessed with Toy Story before it came out, and that when we actually sat down to watch the movie, again at home instead of at the theater, um, apparently I just talked my whole way through it as if I knew exactly what the whole story was based on the trailers. And I don't remember that. I do remember seeing the commercials on TV, and I was confused because so much of it was bright and fun and in Andy's room. And then they would have the hard cuts to Sid, right? Nighttime scenes with Sid, and all of a sudden it's scary. So I was convinced at 5 years old, or however old I was at the time, I was convinced, like, oh, it's two different movies, obviously, because it changes so much and how it looks. This Toy Story is actually two movies, which would not be true for a little while longer, but that was definitely one of the earliest ones. And in general, yeah, one of the one of the minor points to make today, as just in general, is that there's almost no avoiding Disney, specifically as a kid. And if we're talking about entertainment that is exclusively for adult audiences, there's a huge chance that you'll miss out on something, right? If you don't have a certain taste, if you don't have access to that particular form of entertainment, it's not a part of your life. But as a kid, first of all, you don't get to make all of the decisions in terms of what you're watching, especially when you're very young. And on top of that, it feels so much more condensed. Definitely in past decades, it has felt incredibly condensed. Relative lack of variety in children's entertainment. And of course, regardless of how much variety was available, Disney was always seen as top tier. Like, parents, I think, have always felt incredibly safe about showing their kids a Disney product. Like, there's basically zero chance that it's going to be insane and offensive. Certainly not their contemporary work, even as far back as the 90s. They were not doing incredibly offensive stuff, just stuff that we would feel was kind of offensive later on in certain ways. Anyway, so because of just that, how condensed children's entertainment is as a whole, it's basically guaranteed that almost everyone will have the shared experience of exposure to Disney when they're a kid. Everybody has to be a kid at some point, and almost every kid with access to movies and shows in general will see Disney stuff. You kind of can't get away from it. And again, since you're not choosing what to watch as a kid so much, it's just part of the experience. It is part of this weird, near universal childhood experience, and has been for so long, which is something they're definitely trying to drive home with this whole Disney 100, marketing scheme and events and all that stuff. Anyway, what is all this? Wasn't there something else good I wanted to look at? We shall see. Oh yeah, I think it's this. I think it's some kind of auction of like Disney goods, which sounds kind of fun. Let's see what we got after I catch up here in a second. Okay, Burning Landfill says, the first, last, and only time I went to Disney World, I ate at the Small World restaurants area. Got extremely sick for several days after that. It was otherwise fun. I'm glad to hear the trip was positive, was net positive, I guess. I only went to Disney World once, in high school. I think it was a band trip. We went to Disney World, and the only thing I really remember about the Disney food, which was like included in our, visitor package or whatever, is that it was typically a lot. Like the serving sizes were massive. So I always felt like, well, I should finish it, but it's too much, and like I'm in the middle of a theme park in Florida in summer. So it was a bit challenging, but I mean, I guess I appreciate that given the prices, that they at least do some pretty hefty helpings of whatever they were serving. I don't even remember the food. Yeah. Ugo says Disney Club 33 is a not-so-secret club inside Disney Park. He reported cost of membership was a $50,000 initiation fee and $15,000 annually for individuals. Yeah, so that's 33. D23 is a different thing, right? But yeah, that's another one of the, well, I guess we can't call it a myth because it is a real thing. But yeah, just the idea of like the ultra premium Disney experience at the parks is wild to me. and especially wild to me just because I'm not a big fan of. I'm not that big a fan of amusement parks, but many people are. They love having the passes. They love having enhanced access to the whole thing. So cool, cool, cool. But yeah, I do. Let's look at this stuff. Let's take a look. If this is like real, if this was, well, I was about to say props. There are no props in an animated movie. I guess it's just stuff inspired by the movies, which is less interesting. I would love, like an animation cell or something. Those are probably all gone, huh? Let's take a look. What do we got? Oops. Well, it's both. Would you like the Black is King catsuit worn by Beyonce? That's weird, right? That's I feel like that's weird for Disney specifically. Can I get more details? Also, is this a bid? Or yeah, okay. Okay, so it's not a static price. Um Now we have Beyonce's measurements. See, weird. You know? It has not been tested against any product safety standards, so keep that in mind. Okay. Oh, this is going to be fun. Landfill says, I read somewhere that Scrooge McDuck and Flintheart, Glomgold, are both Club 33 members despite being fictional characters. And that is also something I could 100% believe. Mostly for the purpose of, the intended audience. The people who are in that club, why wouldn't they want to feel like they're fellow members with fictional characters that they like? Also, it's kind of just a funny joke, right? It's just a funny joke that Scrooge McDuck would, of course, be in this incredibly exclusive Disney club. Wow, worn by Beyonce. This gets its own little box. Okay, yeah. Boy, oh boy. Yeah. We have a replica, a Swarovski replica of the crystal slipper. I thought it was just called a glass slipper, but I guess not. We have a life-size paper mache Yoda. Come on now. They're winning me over quick. My gosh. Archival inkjet print. Losing me again. Oh my goodness. I also, any of the names they're mentioning? I guess I do know Tommy Hilfiger's name. But I'm sorry, I don't know most of these people's names. Here's a Coach suitcase, which is currently more than double what people are bidding for a thing that Beyonce wore. Why? Sorry, I know me being surprised at things is not the best video content, but this is a lot to take in. We have so many tabs. Hugo says, what Scrooge is to cheap. What Scrooge is too cheap to pay for a membership. Okay, good point. Good point. If we're sticking to the lore, then, maybe Scrooge would not want to pay an absurd amount of money to be in that club. Gymnastics leotard inspired by Mike Wazowski. This is cheap. This is a steal. All right. This this is great. Oh, this is very good. Yeah. I'm back on board. What, just a day bed? Just like a love seat? What were the standards, do you think? Did they ask people to send stuff in, or were people just like, I want to, I want to be associated with Disney. I'll do something. I'll come up with something. It's a lot to take. My goodness. There's also a lot. Wow, I guess we skipped a lot, huh? Okay. Okay. What? Percy Jackson? What? Why? Why? Was that a Disney thing? I guess so. Oh, there's a lot here, more than I thought. Avatar Studio Tour, private screening, and personalized avatar image. I am not the target audience. I am not the customer base for this stuff. Well, this is neat, though. I was expecting to just stop in, make fun of some of these auction items, and go about my merry way. But wow, another gymnastics leotard. Oh. Oh my. Okay, I think we're back. Okay, we made it. We made it. Okay. My goodness. Ugo says he put high power magnets on his cane to pick up dropped coins on the ground. Burning Landfill says, "Wait, isn't getting the money to be in the club? Why was he doing his NES adventures?" Yeah, do you think like that's an in-universe product, the DuckTales game? Like, did they, sign over their likenesses in universe to create that video game? It's a great angle. They should have done that. Designed by Nigo. Nigo. It's a sculpture of Yoda. It's Japanese paper mache. It's not something I'm familiar with, but there you go. 26 inches tall. Japanese fashion designer and pioneer of street culture. Pioneer of street culture. Wait. Pioneer of street fashion? Sounds like a sentence, right? Pioneer of street culture sounds different to me. Oh, but for this one, Disney will pay the shipping. They're not going to pay the shipping for Beyonce's clothing outfit thing, but they will pay for this, which is nice because I'm guessing it's coming from Japan, and also it's a giant paper mache sculpture, so but very nice of them. And that's an insane price for me. I would not bid on or purchase this item. Well, maybe bid on it as a joke, but it's not insane. Some of these other things are really, really getting up there. This I need to process for a little bit. I don't know what the item is. It's a unique piece featuring an iconic Mickey Mouse illustration. It was originally found in LA in the 1980s. Founded on ideas of nonconformity and the subversion of norms. That's a little bit partially redundant. Okay. This one you have to pay the shipping for, by the way. What is it with the clothes they make you pay that? What? This image is certainly something to talk about, but I thought it would be like the whole outfit, which was cool. But it's a shirt that was found in LA in the 80s. And they changed some things about it and pulled, I don't know, they pulled some threads out. Yeah, this price, I mean, it's fashion. I'm not going to try to understand, kind of thing. Okay. Sorry, let me catch up. Landfill says, I'm not sure. I covered the truly awful NES Mickey Mousecapades video game. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. Really? Okay. I don't think I've touched any of the licensed Disney games from like the NES or SNES era. Original Kingdom Hearts is probably one of the early, maybe some of the tie-in movie games from like the early 2000s I've experienced before, but yeah. Okay, here we have some fine art. These pictures go by too fast. Okay. Right. Paint to art is like Mickey to Disney. Okay. Hence, using colored pencils. Oh. Noreen Hamad created the look and texture of paint. I was really hoping this was just massive, massive dollops of paint on canvas, but no, it's just, it's an image. I'm not super familiar with Noreen Hamad's work, I don't think. But her hyper-realistic drawings explore issues around representation, truth, and deception. No Oxford comma. Okay. And she's used, like, Disney subjects before? Pop and vivid images. Oh, so she... Okay. This is another one where you gotta pay for the shipping. And that is no small thing with fine art stuff, right? That's not, like... that's not like stuffing it inside an envelope and putting 5 or so stamps on there. And yeah, this one's bringing the cash. Art investment is a thing. We don't have to comment on that too much. Okay. Hamad's work has been exhibited in the UK and internationally. That's not a very good sentence. Not very meaningful. Like, yeah, okay. I guess being exhibited in the UK is like a sign of status. I don't know what they wanted this to be. It was probably written. This was probably composed by the artist team, right? Disney did not write these things on their own. Ugo says Percy Jackson movies and the TV show, I guess, was once a Fox IP. So Disney bought Fox. Yep. Okay. 2 movies are on Disney Plus, and they're about to release a TV show by the end of the year. I've seen at least one of them. I've seen at least one of the Percy Jackson movies because a friend of mine is big into the Percy Jackson stuff. So I might have seen the second one, but I honestly don't remember. I'm really not sure. Okay, so this is it's functional sculpture. I was going to ask if it's furniture or a sculpture. It's both. Although for the price, I don't think you would be using it. I would not want to be drinking my Mountain Dew. When was the last time I had Mountain Dew? Okay. Anything interesting here? The second surreal version, inspired by Disney's Mickey Mouse, represents boundless potential and influence on future generations. The 2 interpretations of Mickey Mouse take inspiration from the black and white style in Disney Steamboat Willie alongside Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan. And Mickey was, of course, in all of those. Stories highlighting childlike fantasy. Both chairs are constructed from illustrated textures, hand-dyed Tibetan lamb's wool, powder-coated aluminum-striped legs, polished acrylic feet, CNC routed ears of Baltic birch plywood, and polished acrylic ears, recycled HDPE, and hand-knotted nylon and rope arms. Okay, they don't say a lot about Gabriella Noel in this, do they? Oh, here we go. Creates playable art and interactive objects. I mean, as an artist, as a fashion designer, whatever, like, what motivates you to do this? Do you think Disney approached these people? do you think these people approach Disney? Clearly, they were aiming for high-end products, stuff that would draw a whole bunch of money, and a lot of this stuff is newly made, right? These are not things out of the Disney archives, although I think there are a couple of those kinds of things here. It's stuff made elsewhere, so it's not like Disney has to get rid of any of their, or a lot of their precious commodities. Regardless, I'm not crazy. I'm sorry, I'm not big into the chairs personally. Now, the leotard with a signed design sketch. Oh, just those two images, I guess. Not pulling in a bunch of cash. Mexico's up and coming superstar of artistic gymnastics. That's a new phrase for me. Okay. Don't think I have too much else to say, but this is one where Disney will cover the shipping costs. I mean, look. Come on now. Is this also... It almost looks like the image just cuts off, but I think that is indeed the bottom of the leotard. Which sort of makes it seem like a... Like, you would definitely have to wear other stuff with this one, right? When I think of gymnastics leotards, I feel like it's a whole... You know, it's the one thing, and then you're good to go. This seems to be taking a different approach. I don't know. All right. So this is signed copies of Percy Jackson. Not too much else to say there, I guess. Rick lives in Boston with his wife and co-producer. Be kind of funny if co-producer was just another name for your romantic partner, right? It's signed books. I don't know. Yeah, there you go. Now this. Oh, they're in Manhattan Beach. Okay. Up to 9 guests. So this is a whole big studio visit for approximately 5 hours. Wow. And you get turned into an avatar. Wow. Yeah. You can take photos. You do get drinks and snacks. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I don't know if you guys would be into that, but here you go. Do you think this was in his contract for the Avatar sequel? Do you think somewhere in a byline it was just like, by the way, we're gonna do this auction thing. If you could just 5 hours, that's all. You know, we'll maybe even reimburse you for this. Studio tour and turn somebody into an avatar. And he can't do it alone, right? He's got to have other people around. There have to be some technical folks ready to make the avatarification possible, right? But this one's getting up there. This one people are into, okay? They want to... Only one person gets to be an avatar, by the way. That's how this reads. Okay. All right. We're good. Let's move on. This is actually... This is... Anything that's like, you know, original illustrations from animation people, things like that. Like, the image itself is not, you know... It's not the most incredible thing in the world, just aesthetically, for me. But, come on now. Like, it's pretty neat. Have to mention that he went to CalArts. Got to have that. And thankfully, this is another one where Disney's going to pay the costs. Wow. We place a bid. No. Now we're good to go. Okay. I should wrap up this segment. I think we've been stuck here way too long. But it is an interesting ingredient to add to the mix here. This very indulgent indulgence. That's what I'm going with. in just the product side, the merchandise side of Disney, which is so much in line with their decades long penchant for turning properties into successful merchandise most of the time. I will say this is charity stuff. This is Make a Wish. You know, this is not Disney's not taking all this money home. That would be very skeezy. But obviously, it's an extension. It's an extension of them celebrating themselves and encouraging other people to celebrate them and the impact on our lives. And I guess at long last, before I wrap up here, I really should talk just a little bit more about, I guess, my personal view on how my perception of Disney has changed over time. I already talked about, I had some very early encounters with their work, and for so long, I think a lot of people share this experience. Um, it was de facto, like it was just Disney was synonymous with children's entertainment and specifically high quality children's entertainment, and I don't think that we can really argue against that today either. Despite how cynical I tend to be, at least on the internet, and how I tend to contextualize and talk about and critique Disney and Disney movies, I would not argue that the quality of their work has declined in any meaningful way at all. They are still very clearly, at least up until Bob Iger's recent comments of reducing production costs for all movies, prior to that, they have been extremely committed to putting enormous amounts of money, just industry leading budgets, into their animated work specifically. They have not abandoned animated work in any serious way that I can see. They have certainly expanded beyond it as well, but they're still doing it. They're still doing it. Pixar continues to be one of the best gets in the contemporary history of animation. And I also think that Pixar is doing a lot of the work of keeping Disney prestigious as a whole, specifically keeping Disney animation prestigious. That's not to say that the Disney original animated features are not successful. Not at all. Extremely successful stuff. Even stuff like Moana. Is that what it was called? That was maybe not the most incredible thing in terms of critical terms. Was extremely successful with children. A lot of their contemporary stuff, obviously Frozen, Wish seems relatively well positioned to perform very well. Also, they're still hitting it out of the park in terms of making those connections with very young audiences. Doesn't always mean incredible financial return, although we also have to consider the merchandising beyond just box office returns for a particular movie. The quality is definitely still there, and another very complicated part of what Disney is today and what Disney has been for many years now is that they really have taken on, maybe in part willingly and in part just because it was forced on them, they've taken on this like moral responsibility for animation as a whole or just children's entertainment as a whole. And we can lobby many criticisms at the way they've attempted to do a better job of including diversity in terms of characters and storytelling. We can criticize how they've handled just gay or LGBTQ characters in a lot of their recent stuff, and there is plenty of room for criticism there, but they're certainly making an attempt, and they are extremely aware, or that's the sense I get, they're extremely aware of the role that they play globally. We're not just talking about in terms of Hollywood filmmaking. It's the reach. It's the massive cultural export side of Disney. And unless someone can think of an alternative, they are, without a doubt, the biggest name in world animation, as far as I can tell. Like I was saying earlier, there is that shared experience of the childhood entertainment and just kind of having Disney forced upon you, but also kids making genuine connections with the Disney products. it's just undeniable. Um, and I have relatively positive feelings about many of those aspects of what Disney is today. At the same time, just as you become an adult, as you become more mature and start looking into sort of the business side of filmmaking in general, or specifically animation, that's when it starts to sour a little bit. And I do think that's just a natural part of continuing to be interested in animation as you grow older. Um, and there are many things about the business side of Disney that I don't admire, and there are a lot of things about their corporate leadership that I kind of hate. And I don't know. I can't say whether or not that's enough to. It certainly hasn't made me like a mortal enemy of Disney. But once again, we always come back to them. We always come back to talking about Disney eventually, whether it's because of a more recent release or whether it's because of a weird, awkward decision they made on the business side of things, or their aggressive acquisitions of other studios and properties. But they're still here. They're still doing it. They seem like they want to be bought out by another company, but at least for the moment, they are this force. They are a purely Disney force on the world stage, a massive entertainment entity, and it sure seems like they will continue to do so. They will continue to be that for many, many years to come. For another 100, I don't know about that. I don't know if this form of entertainment will still exist in 100 years, but regardless, I don't know. It's always mixed. It's always mixed when talking about Disney. And in terms of the internet or just YouTube specifically, there seems to be an endless appetite for talking about Disney. There are entire channels that have basically been constructed around discussion of Disney movies or Disney theme parks or history of Disney, and I don't see it dying off. And part of that too is just the prevalence of Disney adults, I guess, as they're now called. You know, for some people, it's not something that gets left behind. It's not they're not a relic of their childhoods, but rather just a continuing part of their life. They connect so deeply with some aspect of the Disney brand or the brand image that they continue to support them conceptually and also financially for many, many years. But yeah, hey, if you guys have some thoughts to share, go for it. Sorry, I know it's been a pretty long stream for me, and that I've been rambling for quite a while about weird Disney auction items, like this Yoda that Nigo is just really staring down. This almost seems like a rude way to look at Yoda, doesn't it? Anyway, if anyone has some thoughts to share, go for it. I'll hang out for a little while longer. If we want to get into more of a conversation about it, we can. But as usual, I just had a handful of thoughts to share, and would love to hear from other people. Also, I'm losing my voice. It's a combination of the energy drink, but also just talking nonstop for about 90 minutes. You know, it happens. Also, I don't think that I knew about the Percy Jackson show. And by the end of the year, that's crazy. That's crazy town. There's not much year left, is there? We are barreling toward 2024. Is there anything else on the website? I don't think so. Sarah Bareilles, remember her stuff? There's an exhibition, maybe? This is something I do like this. In some more recent articles that are just like, oh, hey, here's what's getting added to Disney Plus, you know, this month or something. I've seen quite a few shorts, old shorts getting added to Disney Plus. I'm totally on board for that. I think that's great. I mean, in general, it always feels to me like Disney Plus just needs more and more and more. Like it, for as much as they have invested in original content for the platform, it can still feel light and it can still feel like you see the same stuff repeated in 5 different categories, and like, okay, I've seen what there is to see. So unless I'm doing rewatches, there's not much here for me. But the shorts is a great option. I mean, for one thing, most of them are still okay in terms of cultural sensitivity and even just aesthetic presentation and all that stuff. As long as they're not messing them up or changing them significantly in the remastering, like this image, for example, does not come across as original to me. It looks like it certainly has been cleaned up. But yeah, for kids specifically, like, yeah, go for it. Kids can watch, 15 of these shorts in not that much time, and they have something to watch. It's safe. It still has the clean bill of health thanks to the Disney brand being attached to it. And yeah, obviously there's a lot of interesting work in terms of Disney shorts over the past 100 years or so. So it's neat. It's also just like a good form of preservation for this kind of stuff. Shorts tend to get the short end of the stick, so to speak, and especially classic stuff. It maybe winds up in a really low quality YouTube video or compilation, but that's about it. So nice to have what I assume to be high quality versions of the shorts right on Disney Plus. There you go. That's great. It's never a big fan of Figaro personally, but yeah, not the cat for me. Skeleton dance, sure. Oh my gosh. Mer babies. Uh-oh. Okay. Maybe I was wrong about the cultural sensitivity thing. I don't know. How do you think people would respond? How do you think the original animation teams would respond? The people who actually made these shorts, if you brought them around and you said, "Hey, so people can watch these again, but they do it on a computer." Well, what's a computer? I don't. Or they do it on their TV. Well, what's a? Is it a small screen, kind of this little private movie theater thing? Yeah, kind of. And they pay every month. But they can watch a lot. They can watch this for as many hours of the day as they want. I don't think the response would be negative, right? Maybe a little bit of confusion from the original teams. They would kind of be like, well, why? Like this was just supposed to be something you saw in the theater for a couple minutes and then it was done. But other than that, yeah, I don't think they would be freaked out by it. Oh my gosh. This is a lot of imagery. This is a lot to take in. Okay. All right. Are we ready to wrap up? Another scattered stream, but one that I have enjoyed. Have enjoyed it. I enjoyed going through this kind of strange but also interesting website to celebrate the anniversary. We did miss the anniversary by just a smidge. I may or may not go back to bid on a few of those items. But otherwise, I really should get caught up on some of this stuff. I would like to watch Elemental. I'll get there at some point. And the Miyazaki movie, I just have to promise myself that I'll watch that sometime soon. But yeah, I think that's just about it for now. If you're wondering about other stuff on the channel, I do have plans to release another video soon enough. But as always, just about finding time for editing and everything else involved with that. So that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. Cool. All right. Well, I guess that's it. We're just about ready to go. As always, thank you to everybody watching live, especially the folks in the chat, Ugo and Burning Landfill here. Thanks for keeping the stream going. I really, really appreciate it. And also special thanks to anybody watching the archive version of the stream later on. Unless plans change, I'll be back for another stream next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And yeah, I think that just about brings us to an end. So yeah, that's all for now. Thanks for stopping by.